Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nick unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
G'day.
Hello. How are you, Woz?
I'm going all right, Coxie.
Going all right.
Tuesday.
Is it still freezing there?
Yes. So there's still some snow hanging around down as low as 500 metres elevation. So that's like Toowoomba's elevation for anybody in Queensland, I think is 700 and something metres.
Wow.
So, it would snow on Toowoomba.
No, well, at least it'd be close enough for me to go and visit, seeing as I can't actually get to the snow this year.
Yeah. There's a few people that can't get to places they want to go, but that is the way of the world now.
It is.
So we need to change the way we think about it, don't we, Coxie?
Oh, boom. There it is. Well done.
I've been
You're back.
that lately, is changing the way I think about things. And today's guest is a bit of a combo, real tradie guy, real tradie wives. It's a real tradie couple.
I don't think we've done a real tradie couple interview before, have we? This would be our first.
I'm not sure. I would have to go back through the catalogue of episodes, of which there are many. We're in the 400s now here at Tradies in Business.
Longest running tradie podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
I nearly stuffed up my words there.
But we are talking to I'll call them a young couple. They're in their 30s. That's young for us, oldies.
Speak for yourself, Warwick.
Who are working together. They're working together well. They're doing some awesome stuff in their trade business. And we love these guys. They're rock stars in our community, and not because of the size of the goals they're kicking necessarily, but just because they really do illustrate what can happen when you change the way you think about yourself, your relationship, your business, your conversations, your marriage, your role in the business. And this is a fantastic one for the ladies. I think if this episode was recorded for anybody, and we don't do that intentionally, tradie ladies, tradie wives, tradie mums, if you're a woman, however you want to define that, I think this is a fantastic episode where Renata DiVincenzo, the wife, and half of Devo Designs today, really does share some awesome stuff. I can't think of a better word than that, Coxie, around just being a tradie wife.
What that means. Got a lot of hackles up with your words there.
Yeah, so you need to have a listen to why I use that languaging, and I do that deliberately.
You do.
But it was a great chat. I've hijacked the intro, Coxie, so thank you. And you're like, where did that come from, Woz? Which will make sense to a lot of people. But yeah, fantastic episode. Do listen to the end, because the answer to the question of what do you wish you'd done differently in your business is a cracker, and you'll really want to hear that, and you'll get a lot out of that. So fantastic episode. Again, really proud of these two, and I'm proud of my my co-host for sitting there silently while I just rambled on in the intro.
I've got a hole on my tongue from biting it. No, this is a cracking episode, and you've summarised it perfectly. It really is. This is one of those podcasts that goes to places you could never have predicted it to go to, but it needed to. So much of this needed to be said. I just know you're going to love it. Enjoy.
G'day, listeners.
Hello.
Hello.
I feel like I'm the listener talking back to you here.
I feel like I need to reintroduce myself, Nicole, to our listeners.
Well, that would be two of us, and it hasn't been that long, I wouldn't think, surely.
It's been longer than normal. We don't go very long between episodes, but we've had a bit of a break in transmission.
Well, life.
Hashtag life.
Yeah.
Anywho, today we are lucky enough to be talking to the Italian stallion and his beautiful wife on the podcast.
I love this.
So this should go really well with that sort of an intro.
It should.
And everyone is going to go to their Instagram feed now to see pictures of the Italian stallion.
Oh, well, they do something for World Naked Gardening Day. Is that what it's even called?
Yes, indeedy. All right, so we are chatting to. So it's a real tradie couple. We don't have a theme for this one. We've had like real tradie guys and real tradie wives. We're like jamming the two together and making it a real tradie couple. And there's some dead air for us all.
I was waiting till we're allowed to speak. Yeah, that's us. Hello.
The floor is open.
I was waiting for Coxie to speak, but because it's a while since we actually chatted, we've lost our body language cues. So, Luke and Renata DiVincenzo, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to have you here. Now, you are married. Yeah. Congratulations for that. Yeah. And Luke was actually just sharing with us that he stalked you when you weren't even of legal age, Renata.
Well, he's only 2 years older than me, so he wasn't far off. Himself. Yeah, that's right. We started dating.
I reckon. Yeah. Talk about outing people on the podcast with no real intro.
Into my convictions.
I reckon they're up for it. I reckon they're up for
zero.
Just stalking.
No, I was 20. He was 22 when we started dating, and many months into our dating boyfriend and girlfriend situation, he kind of confessed to me that he's had his eye on me since high school. And I went to the all-girls school and he went to the all-boys school across the road.
Of course he did.
Yeah. I'm a good Catholic schoolgirl and schoolboy here.
There is such a thing, yeah.
I'm really glad we didn't ever hook up or kind of meet in our teen years because even 20s, I look back and I think that's really young. But, yeah, I'm kind of glad we had those awkward teenage years too.
Trial and error.
You just needed to iron a few things out before you actually got together. Yeah.
It's all going all right.
I think I'm still ironing things out. So you guys are not in your 20s anymore. I mean, not that you don't look that. I mean, you both look sort of sparkling, fresh. Yeah. And you have a business, which is why we're chatting to you on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, right. Yep.
Yeah. Did you start that in your teens as well? How long have you had Devo Designs?
Yeah, it was maybe 19, not Devo Design, but started. I didn't actually start officially till out of uni, which was 2006.
Yeah, nice.
And started small and did my own stuff, worked for a bit of a mentor, Jong Designs, a bit of an artistic landscaper, we'll call it. So I learned a lot from him and obviously a bulk of my knowledge from my father as well, who's super hands-on with everything. And pretty much fix or do anything. I think we've all good tradies have something like that behind them.
Yep.
And then, continued out of uni straight into do the construction licensing through TAFE, and then kicked it on from there. Started small with just general maintenance, properties.
You're actually
undercharging.
You're actually
doing all the good tradie stuff.
Yeah, doing the stuff that everyone
undercharging
now. Yeah.
Yep.
Undercutting.
Sorry. No, the night we actually met, which we won't go into that story, but it was in a club. He was very excited because he had secured his first landscaping contract and job. And so the year we got together in June 2006 is the month that he started his first solo landscaping job. So, and that my introduction, we were dating for about 4 weeks and I was there shoveling dirt from a pile.
So really,
baby girlfriend.
So the dating was more around, hey, she's got guns. I reckon she could do some good shoveling.
Yeah.
So you were really destined to be a tradie wife, Renata.
I think so.
I
I didn't.
Like straight into it, yeah.
I didn't really know that or own that title. I'd had a career of my own. So when I met Luke, I was working in a cafe. I was a supervisor there, and he would come in to buy a bottle of Coke and look at me, and
after I went for a surf and just walking in with boardies on, yeah.
Just happened to be shirtless, mate.
Andy, yeah.
Yeah.
And then after dating Luke and starting our relationship, he kind of said to me one day, you're great at what you do, but you're a bit too smart to be making coffee and slicing bread. So I think you should go and study something. And I did, and I did a diploma of tourism. And then I started my career in travel, where I worked for 10 years at the one company that saw us have the amazing opportunities to go all around the world at very low cost or free pricing. Multiple times. So within that 10 years, though, I was doing bits and pieces for Luke's business. I would send invoice, reconcile, pay suppliers, that type of stuff, but nothing too chunky because I was working full-time and at times had a pretty high-pressure job myself. So, yeah.
It's a slow burn, I think, for most tradie wives, and they fall into it exactly as you've just described. That's how I fell into it. I had my own career. I was working 70 hours a week, and somehow you were in that career, and then somehow you had to find time to help because our tradies are working so damn hard and physically exhausted. They're not home often till after it's dark. I, in my case, would be home a little bit earlier, so it provided me some time to do some invoicing or to work on some of the marketing or just those little incidental things that you can help with when you have time. And yet there seems to be this point in which you're able to make a decision. Do I really want to jump in and be involved here? And I find 9 times out of 10 when I have a conversation, it's because I can see the tradie wives can see a better way of doing things or another way to support or another way to help. And so even then, I don't think that we fall into it full time. It's just that we're going to help more. And that eventually turns into a career, which I know we're going to talk about at some point in time. It's a big dynamic shift in the relationship. And I guess, Luke, I'd love to know what your thoughts were around this time and those changes and how they evolved. Was there a real pressure point for you where you knew you wanted Renata to play a bigger role in the business, or did it just sort of evolve for you?
No, I think I didn't, like, from the very first, I never wanted to be a tradie, number one. I never classified myself as a tradie because being young, I thought tradie would just be, I don't know, just almost like a labourer. That's what I thought a tradie was. And then I considered myself a landscaper, not a tradie.
Yeah.
So because we did pick at everything and we ultimately from uni, I wasn't sure if it was going to be a tradie, landscape, or then design or be an architect, something like that. Because I did the major in design. So that's where the passion was. I also did other stuff, and, you know, parents saying, you sure you want to go this alley? It's pretty hard work, blah, blah, blah. You could be a teacher, all this sort of stuff. And it just, every time I tried something, it just fell back straight into a need to landscape because that's just what I love doing. So I got to a point where I've been doing it for so long, I would always say to Renata, you're so good at this, you could do this full time. And I was probably, before she acknowledged that, I would always say it first. And then it got to a point where you're so busy that the worst thing a tradie can do is let someone down, client. So I never wanted to get to that stage. I feel that I haven't yet, but I could feel that we're so busy that it could happen quite easily. So once Renata can see that happening and then the stress takes over, I think that's where the natural motherly instinct of a woman says we need to, well, that's what women do, gel families together. So you could see her brain ticking over and wanting to do more, balancing the job. And then it got to a point where we said, look, the baby's happened. She was not working anymore. What are you going to do? Study, learn something new, or just give this a big kick up the butt and let's have a crack at it. And then once she did sort of get more hands-on and into it, just recently, every time she discovers something new in business terms, sales and all that sort of stuff, she actually has a general love for it and interest. And that growing excitement that she's developed has made it a lot easier to then keep going and make it. And now she just, every time she's like, I'm so excited after talking to you guys. Every time she's like ringing me up, so it was such a good chat, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yep. Got 2 hands in concrete, can't hear, got cement all over my face, ear pinned in my ear. Yeah, that's good, babe. Do whatever you want. Let's just do it. So yeah, now she just loves doing it, and she even tried to start a new course, and she's like, look, I just don't even want to do that. I just want to keep doing this. So she's ditched that, and I guess 100% in.
So how have you found that transition into being business partners, essentially? And from a guy, Luke, that, you know, you would have been largely doing your own thing, making your own decisions, buying your own wheelbarrows, like, to now having a business partner telling you things, expecting things to be done a certain way, but also your wife. Like, how has that gone for you guys? And I'm especially keen to hear Luke's perspective from a guy's perspective.
There's a few ways it happened.
Renata, stop laughing.
Originally, she would say, is that how you would speak to someone you're working with? And I'd be like, in the terms of, you know, maybe being childish married couple compared to professional business partners.
Yep.
So she would always take me back to that place, which is good. It's a bit of a recognition, so you stop what you're arguing about. Also, I think our benefit is her strengths are admin. My strengths are not admin. My strengths are landscaping. Her strengths are not landscaping. She wouldn't have a clue about landscaping. I wouldn't have a clue about admin. Let's just make that note so severe.
Just a sweeping generalisation. That's okay.
But you know what I mean? So we stick to our own things that we're good at, and then that's what we work on. If I need to buy something, she's actually amazing. She goes, look, you need to buy something, you buy it. She actually makes me buy stuff, buy tools, because your tools get a workout. You think, oh, I can't afford a new one. I'll just go until it actually explodes. It's still on fire, but I'll just wait till it actually pops.
Yeah.
And she's
like, get another few weeks out of it.
Yeah. So, I mean,
so you talk about, you know, the tone of language, I guess, of, and I'll be straight up, you know, being lazy in the way we talk to our partners when we work with them. And the same goes for both men and women. I think we just get sloppy and less mindful. But did you feel like you were giving up anything, Luke, in that transition into actually, you know, letting Renata run that side of the thing?
Not really, to be honest. I thought I was giving up stress and giving up a weight on my shoulders that I didn't need to have anymore. So that's the only thing I've given up.
Awesome, mate. It's awesome because we talk to a lot of couples. You know, it's probably the most common trade business setup is the husband and wife team, and I guess we hear a bit from men that find it hard to let go of the stuff. And I mean, they do a shit job of the stuff, but they won't let go of it. Yeah. So I was just curious to know if that was the same for you. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't sound like it was.
Maybe a few little things like the scheduling recently that we're trying to nut out. We've just jumped in and Renata started doing it the last 3 days through Fergus, and it's just worked. So the guys know what they're doing. I haven't said anything to them. It's like, yeah, they're off work.
What? Get out of town. What? The guys know what they're doing. This is employees that you pay.
They can do that. I don't have to.
No.
You know how to do that?
Crazy. I guess quoting might be the last thing to release from my grasp because it's so in depth with
and I
what
don't
we have to do, and I don't even know if that could ever happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's the piece of the pie that I really want to take. Maybe the maintenance quotations.
There's too much, too many formulas in the landscaping that have taken me 14 years hands-on to work out, and I'm still not 100%. I don't think anyone ever is, but it's a calculated guessing game based on experience. How do you finish someone that?
That's really well put. In fact, you know, I think that we're expected to be as tradies, expected to be perfect at the things that we do, but often it is a calculated guessing game that is based on years of experience. I love the way you've turned that. That's perfect. Renata, I'm really
Right, sorry.
You should.
Keep an eye out for the app.
That'll be the next podcast.
Renata, I'm really intrigued to hear how you found your journey into your role, because it's one thing for Luke to explain to us sort of how that evolved, but what was that like for you? And I know you've had some real big defining points, particularly this year.
Yeah.
But do you want to share some of your journey and what it was like for you?
I'd love to. Hopefully it might help any other tradie wives out there get to the self-discovery points quicker than what I did. So when I was, prior to having our first child 3 years ago, I was commuting from the Central Coast to the city in Sydney 5 days a week. So really big days, 12 hours in total. So when we fell pregnant and I went on maternity leave, I did attempt to go back after, but this is definitely a different podcast topic altogether. Office work environments and mothers returning to work is just, there's so much work that needs to be done there. So it wasn't going to work. I wanted to. I was in a team leader management position, and it just felt so foreign. I'd been there for 10 years, and when I returned 11 months later, so not even that so much had changed, but you were just forgotten about and left. And it wasn't a nice environment to return to. So we made the decision, well, we'd survived 11 months without a second wage. I will just stay at home. I tossed up ideas on working at a cafe, working at Coles, doing night fill. I didn't care what it was. I just, was happy to work but close to home.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of had this moment of, why am I going to work for someone else and grow their business when I should be doing that for ours? Because I do have skills. I sound like Liam Nielsen then.
Skills.
But the transition, to owning the role and title that I now have as business manager took up until, so in 2017 is when we had our first child. I started working part-time for the business then. It was up until 6 months ago that I personally had to own my role, and through your help, Nick and Woz, I stopped saying I just do my husband's books. I just do the invoicing. I just pay suppliers. I didn't just do anything. I was working my ass off. I had created 2 websites. I had been doing payroll, HR work, creating contracts, all these other things for the business. And when I was asked what I was doing, if I was just a stay-at-home mum, and that's absolutely a fine title to have, but I was actually sending my child out to daycare so I could work. And here I was just saying, I just do this. I then started calling myself the administration manager or administration assistant because I felt like a fraud. I can't be a manager. I haven't done any uni degrees. I haven't done anything like that. I can't call myself that. And then when I kind of put down, not even on paper because I didn't have time, in my mind, the things that I actually do and did, and started to introduce myself when asked as the business manager of a landscape business, Devo Designs Landscaping. I took out I took out my husband's business because it is that, and I'm very proud. But I needed to, for myself, for no one else, I needed to realize those things and be confident in myself. And man, that's just made all the difference in the world. And Luke's said this. He said, yeah, I knew this. You're the business manager. I know this. And we've had this conversation as well, Nick, previously about my set work days. Our family and friends are now on board, but there was such a shift of, oh, well, I'll just pop in. Oh, I'm really sorry, I'm working. But you're at home. Yes, I am at home. We have a designated office space, but it's no different to if I was leaving to go to a different work, or if I'd had, my mother-in-law come to watch our 6-month-old at the time. It was kind of like, well, how much work do you actually have to do? So once I started to recognise my title and my place in the business, other people then did as well.
I think it gives you some ownership over what you're able to do as well. Like it was mind-blowing for me. It changed the way our business ran, just as you're explaining when we did it within our construction company. And it's a personal journey that you need to go on yourself to get to that space where you're comfortable to own what you're doing in the business. And then when you become comfortable, others do as well. And I did really want to reference this whole working from home situation. And I do feel that minds are changing now that we're in this COVID time and so many of us are working from home.
Oh, absolutely.
But it has been a constant struggle for me since the day I stepped into our construction business. And people just assume if you're working from home, you can't possibly be working. You can't possibly have that much to do. Oh, you can do that later. It'll be fine. I'm just going to pop around for a coffee. And you and I have spoken about this at length many, many times, as we have with the rest of our group. It's really common for people to disrespect your role, your title, what it is that you do and your job. And I do feel that making those shifts around our job titles and the role we actually play, and then starting to talk to that, does change the mindset of those others around us as well, which is an experience that we've certainly shared. But I think it's great for other tradie wives who are maybe not at that point yet to understand they're not alone. So many of us go through the same thing. Nobody questions what the tradies are doing all day long. Nobody asks. We all know that tradies go and work their asses off, and it's hot and it's dusty or it's freezing cold or it's raining, or it's really hard for them to go and do what they do physically. But we get asked as tradie wives, because we're tradie wives, and that brings up a particular thought pattern around what our roles must be. But if we stand up and we say, actually, I'm a business manager, I run XYZ company, totally different. The respect level from others changes completely.
Absolutely agree. And I kind of had a moment on Wednesday morning. So Wednesday, I love a Wednesday because both children go to daycare nice and early, and I get stuck in. It's also my day where it's the first day of my 3 times a week going to a gym session, which I love, and I've been doing now and implemented that as part of my self-care. And we woke up and Roman, our 11-month-old, just was teething, very snotty, really sick. And we were laying in bed just, as he was waking up. And I think I said to Luke, this sucks. I hate that I can't go to work today, and I hate that I can't go to the gym. My baby needs me, and that's okay. And I love that role as mum. But you get to go to work, Luke. You then get to go to the gym. And he was genuinely really sorry. And he's like, that sucks. And I'm so sorry. And it's fine, but it's then that other role that you're trying to make fit, because in that day I still had to find time to do payroll because our tradies need to be paid, our employees. I still need to have paid subbies because they need to be paid. And it wasn't as easy as just having the baby on my hip in front of a computer, because then he's smashing every other key and I'm going to pay someone in Ethiopia when I should be paying our subcontractor here. And even when Luke got home, he had said, okay, I'm going to be home at 3:30. So I'm like, sweet, because then that gives me at least 2 hours to do the things I need before death hour starts with the children, right, at about 5:30. Luke didn't get home till 5, and I was fucking pissed off. I was so annoyed. And this is where you talk about that husband-wife business partner mix, because I had expressed to him and he had known that when I walk in the door, I'm turning off my work role. I'm going to be dad so Renata can go to work. That's going to work 2 meters away from him, but in the office. And, that gave me the shits. It wasn't his fault. It was work he was doing. So I do find in this role and in this partnership, there's always going to be moments like that do tick us off, but it's just the way it is. And our baby needed us, and that's just what we needed to do. It didn't not annoy me though.
No, and I think every tradie wife that's listening to this podcast has just had that moment of, oh my God, it's not just me. Okay, I get it. It's great. And it brings about an interesting conversation in that it can be really difficult to separate that personal relationship from the business relationship. Yeah. And as much about the lazy use of language, as we were referencing earlier, as what we know we can rely on our partners for that maybe we shouldn't be relying on them for. If we were working in outside businesses, I suppose, if we took your example of Wednesday, you just wouldn't go to work for the day, and then somebody else would step into your role and fill that role. Whereas when you're working in a close relationship, whether it be husband and wife or as partners, you tend to rely on the other person because you have that innate knowledge of what their day is like or what their skill sets are like. And that can actually create quite a bit of friction within a relationship that then gets brought into the business. It's not uncommon. I think it happens for most partners when they're working together. So I'll come to a question here. On those days when you are really pissed off with one another, how do the two of you deal with it so that the rest of the team doesn't see that? Are you able to put it aside and then deal with it at the end of the day and just do business during the day? Or does it start to impact all of those conversations you're having during the day?
Can I take it? I'm proud to say we have had one proper big Barney in front of our employees, and that was a definite husband and wife mixed with business partner moment.
Yeah.
Throw in lack of sleep with a newborn. It wasn't pretty. And I think I even said to our young male employees in their mid-20s and late and early 20s, do not have children in a hurry. Do not start a business with your wife, or not start, we were in it. I didn't mean that at the end of the day. But I think for Luke and I personally, and I'll share this, we had a Barney 15 minutes before getting onto this call. Mm-hmm. And that was because I'd taken the kids to school. I was back here by 7:30, so we had an hour before our talk. I wanted to make myself breakfast and shouted out to him. He's already working in the office doing quotes, and I made some avocado and soy and linseed toast with I chopped up mozzarella and tomato.
Yum.
Drizzled in olive oil, cracked pepper, balsamic, and placed it all on the toast. And I was so happy because that's the wife moment in me. Like, I love cooking. I love making sure he eats something good in the morning because he often doesn't. And I thought we could take just 10 minutes together, sitting at the table with the sun coming in, just 10 minutes together. And Luke's like, yep, I'll be out in a second. Meanwhile, I'm starving, so I start eating. His toast is going cold, and I yell out again. And then he expresses and says, I'm in the middle of a quote. I can't stop this. I'm already behind. X, Y, Z, I'm working. And I'm like, whatever, you're just a dick. Like, I just asked for 10 minutes as a husband and wife, not the business. And then I went and, got ready myself, brushed my teeth, did my makeup, and I came in and I logged on for this, and it was literally 8:15, and I brought it up again. I'm like, I just really needed some us time. And he's just like, gave me all the reasons why. And then I said, of why he couldn't. And then I said to myself, okay, just stop, because you're really excited for this chat with Mick and Woz. And if you bring this negative energy into it, you're not going to have a good time. And I haven't said this to him yet, so I will do it publicly. In that instance, he was 100% right, because if he had actually left the house to go to a job, he wouldn't be here for me to say, I just need 10 minutes with you, just to just be us. However,
goes at 9.
However, on the flip side, I guess that flexibility does come when owning your own business. That could Luke have just given that 10 minutes, but we didn't give ourselves enough time to properly express to each other what we both wanted. But at the same time, that Barney happened. But I do think we have the ability, and we've learnt this, is to give it away. Because plenty of times in the past, we've taken a Barney or a work argument and dragged it out throughout the day. And then we had kids. And then you're tired and you don't have time to be cranky at each other all day, because soon you need to ask that person for help, whether it's with the children or the business. So
we just get over it.
Yeah, that was the short answer from Luke. We get over it.
Get over it.
Absolutely.
And Luke, I wanted to probably jump in there, and I talk to a lot of men. Obviously, I'm a boy or a man, and.
That's a great observation, Mark.
Hang on.
No, it's really good to be self-aware.
No, still a boy.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
What do you think? Like, having got to this stage, you guys have your fireworks, and you also seem to work really well together, and the results in your business are testament to the way you two have grown as business people, as just humans, but also as a couple. And I know, Renata, you're pretty expressive, and you've made some comments over the time that give me a great insight into where the two of you are at and how things are evolving for you. But I'm always keen to get the guys' perspective, because I think us blokes make our lives more difficult than they need to be, just because of who we are and how we are.
That'll happen forever.
Exactly. But Luke, what's some things that maybe for the other blokes listening, that either you wished you'd done better or do better now or did differently, that, like the 10-minute toast episode, right? It's easy to look at these things in hindsight, but are there some things like that as a guy that you think, shit, if I'd just done this, or if I worked on that more, then this more awesome stuff would happen? Have you got any insights on that for us, mate?
Yeah. Like the secret.
We got all the time in the world, mate.
What women want, Mel Gibson. I think 100% the one thing that they want is communication. If I had said, I'm just going to the office, I'm going to take the time between now and this interview to do some quotes. If there's anything you need, I'll do it now. If not, can I just do that? And she wouldn't have even offered me the toast, just made it or brought it in, because she's such a lovely wife. Compliments are good too.
Yeah.
Even with an argument, I think arguments are great. The arguments mean that you're passionate about something and that you give a shit. Same as when you're, arguing about other things. It just means that you care. I mean, if you just let stuff go like whatever, I mean, it just means that you're not 100% in it. You're not standing up for yourself. So if you're not standing up for yourself in a partnership, then you can't find that balance between partners. It becomes a one-sided situation, and then it's probably doomed to self-destruct. Because it's not like you're putting each other in check. You just, I don't know. If I didn't care, well, then Renata would go and do it. If I said, I don't care, whatever, she'd go and do more things, and then she'd be taking on so much stuff that she's overloaded because we didn't have an argument about who's doing what and allocating. So there's that communication. I was about to say something else, but I completely forgot.
Robust conversations is a good way to describe those, Luke.
Yeah. And the other thing is, when we do argue, we've got a bit of a strict rule, and sometimes we slip from it.
Yes,
but
I was going to say this.
We don't get nasty.
We don't
So we have an
swear.
argument about the situation in the comment. We don't swear, call names. We definitely don't walk out. We settle it there, and then.
That brings up an awesome point that I'm going to jump on before Coxie gets in before me. And we could be on totally different tracks here, but rules of the game. Do you guys have some other rules of the game in business, marriage, life that work for you in that way?
Yeah. You want to go?
Oh, that was rule number 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So that rule in our life as married to each other, the no swearing, no name calling, definitely travels over to business. If we're talking about a situation in business, if I can see Luke getting the shits, or he's had to train me in things, and I've always been that person. I've always been the trainer. So I won't lie, there's some times where I've been like, yeah, whatever, and I haven't listened properly, and then he's cracked the shits. And just like he mentioned earlier that I would pull him up at the start in the early days and say, would you speak to a client like that? Would you speak to your employee? The same goes with me. I can't pull out my wife tanties because he's not listening if I'm not listening. So that's still a learning thing for us. I think the main rule is put yourself in a office environment or in the centre of Bunnings.
Surrounded by other people.
Yeah, and how would you
still speak like that?
To your colleague if other people were around? Because one thing that is so important to me is mental health, and in particular men's mental health. We have a male industry, a male-dominated industry, and so how we all speak to each other can have massive consequences. So communication and being respectful is really high for us with ourselves and our team.
How do you think we could all improve in that regard, Renata? Like, what's your observations perhaps on what are some things we could all do better?
Oh, wow.
I can jump in if you want.
Yes, you
go. Yeah,
thank you.
Just because the environment we work in can be quite high strung, stressful, you put under pressure with time, I think finding a little bit of patience is probably key to then opening up the communication lines. So maybe being a bit quiet for just a couple of seconds, being patient with each other rather than jumping down each other's throat. If something doesn't get done instantly. Sometimes men don't hear the right words first go, so you need to just repeat them because we're slow creatures. Sometimes we're slow because we have 10,000 things going through our brain and we can't just fit one more in. A little bit of patience with that and vice versa. And I think that would solve a lot of problems, to be honest.
I think I have 1,000,001 stories to tell about toxic masculinity in my previous work career. I have not come across tradies that possibly operate the same way as maybe someone in an office would. But I do think what's super important for everyone is the respect issue. So just because I am a female, it doesn't mean that it always has to be assumed that I don't know what I'm talking about. I can see Nick nodding her head and was not, because
I'm being silent.
Yeah.
It's the pause, Renata.
Pause, the patience.
Yeah, it's good. I think without delving too deep into that, it just comes down to respect. I love that when we go and buy things, like we bought a new car for Luke actually first last September for work, and we got a ute, and the salesman would always speak directly to Luke and just look at him in the eye. And eventually Luke's like, you're talking to the wrong person. And he didn't use the term my business manager at the time because I hadn't yet adopted that role. But he did express, she takes care of all of our accounts. She knows what's in our bank account. She knows what we can afford. That's the person you got to be talking to.
And I'm frugal skinflint. Like, I would have got cheapest price bargain.
So
she would have just gone, nah, give us your best thing. So mistake number 2.
So what can we do better? Always lead with respect. And for both sexes, and in all scenarios, in your husband and wife working team, lead with respect to your employees, and hopefully then you will get that back with your subcontractors, with your suppliers. Respect just goes a long way, and sometimes it needs to be earned, but you can always be polite and kind, and I think sometimes without being too lovey-dovey, I think everyone needs a bit of that at the moment.
A cuddle goes a long way.
Oh, doesn't it? And extremely at the moment. Oh, we got to use the video.
Our guests are
thing. I'm
cuddling,
loving
yeah. We might start the YouTube channel with these guys. Yeah, no tongue, Luke.
That's why I wanted that 10 minutes. No.
We'll be marking this
I
one
think
as
that-
not for family viewing.
No, there is so much rubbish going on at the moment, and particularly like we talk often, obviously, about mental health on the podcast and about the really high suicide rates and the way things aren't changing quick enough.
Yeah,
and it can be as simple as respect. And I think you've really nailed it with what the two of you were just saying. When you look outside, I guess maybe into social media at the moment, there is so little respect for other people, for their situations, for their scenarios, for their opinions, for their thoughts, for their feelings, for anything. And yet it's something that was very common when we were all kids. Everybody, you were brought up to be respectful. It was Mrs. So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it might be. I don't know how that's all gone wrong. And yet I feel as business owners, it's such a powerful tool for creating a great business. Respect. Yeah. A business based on respect will be a successful business. Yeah. You'll have staff that respect you. You'll have clients that respect you. You will have suppliers that respect you. All of them will work harder for you and be more satisfied at the end of the day from a little thing like respect. It's small, but it's enormous.
It's funny what you said about what we grew up with, and we were always... it was ingrained in us to respect our elders, respect other people. I will say this, if someone is disrespectful and downright rude to me, they do not get my respect. They do not get my positive energy. They do not get my joy to them. So I have said this many times, I Marie Kondo so many people. If you're not bringing joy to my life, you're gone. And that goes down to employees. It goes those sort of skills. Because life is also really too short to be miserable.
Absolutely.
And to be having the weight of the world on your shoulders. There's been 3, maybe 2 times in Luke's 14-year career where I've had to pull him up either physically and just emotionally and say, you can do this. And it's always been like maybe one client's negative comment, which was based on untruths, like not the facts. But there's so much emotion there. And, you might have 30 fantastically happy clients and one client can just bring you straight down. So, yeah, in terms of respect, it does work both ways. But I just want to say, if you're not getting that, don't accept poor or shitty behaviour from other people as well.
It's a good point you make, and I'm a big believer in teaching people how to treat us. And I've taught my children that they need to teach other people how to treat them. And it's quite simply, that's a fancy way of saying we don't accept what we don't like. If I don't like the way you treat me, I will either take the time to call it out because I value your relationship and I want it to continue, or I walk away, just as you've just languaged. But I feel that we're responsible as business owners to be teaching our staff the same thing, to teach our clients the same thing. Yeah. I wouldn't...
Sorry.
Go on.
In that working relationship between husband and wife, I'd like to say to other tradie wives, if you are trying to help your partner with his business and he has actively said, I would like you to, if you keep coming up against roadblocks, maybe a simple sentence such as, okay, I'll step out of the business. I will go and get another job to bring in some income. Is that what you want? If they're being disrespectful to you in terms of how you communicate on business matters, if they're still bringing in that husband and wife nitty-pitty things, have that honest conversation.
On respect, I want to sing, but I can't sing like Aretha Franklin. But
please don't.
I actually did a little bit of work with Black Dog Institute this week, actually, just giving them some feedback on some new stuff they're working on. And I think all this actually starts with self-respect. And it's easy to think we can figure out what's gone wrong with society. You know, we blame social media, or we blame the boomers, or we blame somebody and point the finger externally. And ultimately, if we don't respect ourselves, we're not going to actually insist on it from others, but we're also not going to give that to others in the first place. And you've both languaged it really well. And I feel like, you know, one of the best strategies to getting what we want is to give it away first. If I want people to respect me, then I need to treat others with respect. But the first person I have to treat with respect is myself. And I see that a lot with tradie wives, just to loop back around to that, and I'll do my great grey shark circling thing and come back around to that issue of I guess what I see in our groups is a lot of tradie wives who don't, you know, respect, value, appreciate themselves to the level that they should. And you spoke so well about it earlier, Renata, of that, you know, I'm just this. I'm just a housewife. It's like, what is with that shit? Like, have you, like, housewives know how hard they work. I mean, I'm, you know, a divorced dad to a daughter and remarried, and, you know, my wife works in healthcare, sort of, you know, decent hours. And so I have a home office and I do the domestic stuff, and it's like, it's freaking hard work doing all that shit, trying to make sure there's something to eat for dinner, and, you know, I get it right most of the time. But this whole just thing that tradie wives do a lot, you know, it's that whole self-respect issue. I'm rambling a little bit. There's been a few things going on lately, but
total sense.
I think it starts with self for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. And I feel that one thing I really wanted to talk about, because it's something that becomes more obvious to me every time we talk to tradies full stop, is that I myself didn't understand a lot of the pressure or the stress or the strain that my husband was going through in our business, because you're brought up, or I was certainly brought up thinking, and I've got a great dad who demonstrated love and demonstrated feelings and emotions. But I was still brought up to believe that they're strong and they're robust and they can handle anything and everything will be all right. And the fact of the matter is, it's untrue. It's not the way it is. They have really big feelings. They have really big stuff that they're dealing with that they often don't language. But as we start to work with tradies, some of those walls can be chipped away and they can share more of what they're feeling and what they're going through. But I find that quite commonly early on in a working relationship between a husband and a wife or partners, that level of understanding isn't there yet. They don't, you know, and particularly from the wife's point of view, I think we need to take a bit of ownership on this. We're really good at communicating. We can tell, if you ask me what I need or what I want, I can tell you. I have no problem languaging that.
I'll tell you if you don't ask me.
Absolutely. So true. But our men are not taught that very often. Some are. There are certainly exceptions to the rule, and I'm speaking quite blanketly here. But I think the conversations I see in so many groups before they start to get some help or start to get somebody else working in their business with them to expose some of these things is, I just want to help my husband, but he won't tell me how. Well, it's because he doesn't know how to tell you how, or he doesn't really even know what you might be able to do just yet. Or I'm really concerned about my husband, he won't talk. It's because he doesn't know how. Or my husband isn't sleeping and, you know, he frequently bursts into tears, or he's drinking an awful lot. It's because he can't talk about the things that are bothering him. And to come to a question, Renata and Luke, I think in the beginning we all have those kind of struggles as we learn to understand particularly our husbands or our partners, as they trust us enough to be able to find ways to express what they're going through or what they're feeling. How was that experience for you? Is that something that you resonate with? Did you find the same thing when you and Luke were first working together in the business, or had you already uncovered that in your marriage?
First of all, I just want to say it is totally generational. And you mentioned that our dads, our grandfathers, our uncles, boys aren't meant to cry. You're strong, you're brave, you can do this. And it's our responsibility as parents to two young boys to make sure they're in touch with their emotions and feelings and know how to deal with them. So when we talk about when we started when Luke started his working career as a sole trader, I didn't understand. I had no idea about how stressful it is to quote something, then do it, then find out you've underquoted, and you're at a loss. I didn't have any ideas on or thoughts on that, because that was just kept here with Luke. Whether or not, I think he's an amazing communicator now, and that's something we've both worked on, our communication over the 14 years we've been together, through married and the business, the communication. But there's been plenty of times that I have no idea what's going on, and it's taken me to be able to say to him, just tell me. Because as soon as you say something, the act of just speaking what's worrying you can just be a weight off your shoulders.
It's usually enough, isn't it?
Yeah. The other week, Luke's like, I've just got so much scheduling in my head, I can't get it all down. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. As in, I wrote up, we've got a whiteboard behind us. It's a dodgy one, but it works. And it's just the dates, the months. And that's when we put in start dates for landscaping jobs. We use Fergus for the maintenance side of our business, which has been an amazing addition. And just Luke being able to talk and say, these are the things that are stressing me out, worrying me, has been a weight kind of off both of our shoulders. It's even things like, crap, this client emailed me 3 days ago. Now, if I'd known that was worrying him, or he hadn't got a chance, even just a simple email from me, the business manager, to say, hey, Chloe, thank you so much for your email. Luke's seen this, but he's going to take time to read it over the next 24 to 48 hours and then respond to you. That sets up the client's expectations, and they'll be okay because they've heard from us. That takes a weight off Luke's shoulders, that he doesn't have to be worrying about ordering grass, worrying about ordering plants, worrying about getting the timber. He's got his hands mixed in concrete. The phone's ringing. There's so much that tradies have to deal with, and when it's all in their own mind and they feel like they're the only tradie in the village that has to deal with this, how awful is that? So the changes, just speaking about it and letting the men in our lives, and particularly we deal with our apprentices, and I'm so up in their grill. Hey, how are you today? What's going on? How was your weekend? How was today? How did you find doing this at work? Because if I'm actively communicating with them, they might say that, oh, I can actually talk and say something back to, today was really great. I struggled with this. This was hard, but they're expressing themselves.
I've started asking our guests a question that I'll be fascinated to hear what you guys have got to share around, if you go back in time, I guess in your business, for those listening, what are some things you wished you'd known about or done sooner? You know, it's the ridiculous thing of changing the past, but I find it's such a great insight into people's journey to look back and reflect on, you know what, I wish I'd done this earlier because it would have meant that. It's not to regret or have remorse about the past, but I think there's a lot of lessons for others listening as well in, you know, the personal reflection that you guys have got around that. Is there anything that, you know, when you look back, you wished you'd done sooner or known about or implemented?
I've got mine, but I'll let Luke go first.
Thanks.
Handballed everything to Renata from day one.
It's hard because I'm quite happy where we are now, so it's hard to, if I go to change something, then I wouldn't be right here.
Yeah. No, and you're absolutely right, mate.
The only thing is that I know why everything has to be rushed and quicker, but if we joined forces earlier, we would have got to this happier stage earlier. Maybe a few things would be different. We might have been out of our first home and into the next one, our ultimate. Yep. But that's just speculating. Could have gone the opposite. We could have got into it too early and self-destructed and she could be stacking shelves and Coles, and I'd be, I don't know, at a car wash. Who knows?
Yep.
So, yeah. Let Renata go.
that was great. Mine is, and this isn't to blow smoke up anyone's ass.
Ooh.
I wish I knew about Tradies in Business earlier, because the moment I found out about you guys, it was I don't even know how I found your groups and your pages, but I did somehow. And I think it was a Wednesday coaching call, and you were talking about the drawing board. Just listening to that afternoon, I told Luke, and then I booked in the 15-minute call with you guys that went for probably, I don't know.
We're not very good at keeping to time.
was you and I could talk for days. And that moment was a pivotal moment in our working career. We'd spoken to
make us join forces.
Yeah.
Where
were you 10 years ago?
Yeah. Still in nappies, dude.
But it made us have a clearer direction. And we'd spoken to a business coach years ago. Like, remember when we were at Coddy, our old house, and it was those two guys, and they all had great ideas, but then they told us how much it would cost, nearly 12 grand a year. And it's like, mate, we're only getting like 10 grand landscaping jobs at the moment. And so when we found out about you guys and what you could offer and do, it was like, you know what, we're going to take a gamble and do this. And I thought we were going okay with the business, and we were still surviving on just one wage, because remember, I still wasn't physically, I wasn't drawing a wage. I was getting paid from the business, but not as much in full time like I was from my previous career. So as soon as we started working with you guys, so much change in just our mentality of looking at the business in such a short space of time. And the things that we've implemented and are implementing, the goals that we've set, the goals that we now think are achievable. We're about to start renovations in our first home, and we had thought this is going to be our 10 to 15-year first home. I had so many ideas, and I just chucked them on paper. And I said to Luke, we need a few acres. We need to then have a huge warehouse shed, and attached to that, we need to have an office, and then we need to have our family home, because where we are now, we've got some space with the house and backyard, but it is cramped with having the office here. So when we spoke to each other and said, this is a goal we want and how we're going to achieve that, we only learnt that from working with you guys. So I wish that we knew about you a bit earlier, but I'm not sure your business was even started then.
We've been around for a while, but not in this incarnation. But it's interesting to hear you talk about how it's changed the way you think. You know, so many business people have this idea that they need the strategy or the tool or the tactic or whatever it is, you know, the physical thing, and that's gonna really fix the business. And so often it's just about changing the way we think. And I think this episode has been testament to that, the way you think about each other in your marriage, about your staff, about your customers, about your business. And we were talking before we hit record about the difference between a tradie and a tradie, self-employed tradie perhaps, and a professional business owner. And you guys are such a fantastic example of just thinking differently about your goals, about your business, about how you do things. The strategies and the tactics and the tools and the tips, they're all really important, but they're everywhere. And there's you know, 1,000,001 business coaches that are flogging all that stuff. And we have all of that too. But what I'm so proud of with you guys and the rest of our community is just the willingness that you all have to open up your minds to a different way of seeing yourselves. And yes, I'm getting all zen and philosophical today.
Got those tissues handy.
That community that you have created, Nick and Woz, has done so much for us.
Proof we're not alone doing the same mistakes as everyone else.
It's a big one, isn't it?
We're working with other trades, and they're not necessarily in our landscaping trade, but we all deal with the same thing. And I've said this to you before, tradies don't talk to each other. They don't say, if you're at the pub having a drink, and I've been there present for these conversations, you're like, oh, this client didn't pay or this client didn't do this. Yeah, that's shit.
Yeah.
But no one ever goes, do you know what I'm really struggling with? and we've done that with other trades in the drawing board, and you're not alone. Everyone's wins and losses are celebrated or discussed, and it is a really strong sense of community.
It's my favourite part of what we do, and that was born out of loneliness. And when you're a tradie or a tradie wife, it's a very lonely journey unless you're prepared to put your hand up and be part of a community. And I think that's what I'm proud of the most, is the community that we've created, because it means that people share and they don't feel alone. Yeah. So you've explained that perfectly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you both so much for joining us today. This has been really insightful. Love what you guys have been doing. Love seeing how you're evolving and changing within your partnership, your business, your family. You're very much big leaders in what we do in Tradies and Business. You inspire lots of other people. We're really proud to have you as part of our community. Thank you. Where can people find out more about you if they'd like to come and say good day?
We have Devo Designs _AU on Facebook. Make sure you put that, or else it'll take you to some guy in Milwaukee selling t-shirts. And it is Devo, Devo, like Whip It Good, Devo, which is a play obviously on our surname, DiVincenzo, and also on Instagram, Devo Designs. So it might actually give me a kick up the butt to do more on our socials.
Bit of public accountability for you, Renata.
Yeah, thanks, Woz. But yeah, I'm super proud of Luke and
yourself,
and I am very proud of myself for how far we've come.
You should be.
Thank you. In the 14 years, and also we started working with you guys in March, and because it's Corona, I have no idea what month it is now. But
it could be 2029 by now. We're not really sure.
I am really keen for this pandemic to get under control health-wise. So perhaps we could even organise a big Tradies in Business catch-up, leave the kids at home and go for a holiday.
We had such big plans for catch-ups this year. But never mind, they're all going to turn into next year so that we all get to see each other in the flesh.
Absolutely.
Look forward to it.
Well, it's been fantastic chatting with you both. I've been looking forward to today, and I've come out of hiding to record this episode with you both. So it's been an absolute pleasure. And as Coxie said, really proud of what you've both not just achieved, but I guess the change you've made. And that's the biggest thing that I get fulfillment out of. As you know, being in the fortunate position of sort of the co-founder, co-creator with Coxie here, is seeing people actually embrace change, and you two have done that in spades, pun intended. So go check these guys out. Devo Designs, DEVO Designs _AU on Stalkbook, and Devo Designs on Instagram. Do you have a website?
We do. It's devodesigns.com.au.
And you know, if you're wondering what this whole drawing board palaver is all about, get in touch with us. You know where to find us on Facebook. I know Renata and Luke and a lot of our other drawing board members are always happy to chat to people who aren't sure or want to find out more about it. Best way to do it is to actually chat to some of our members, and you'll find out firsthand how it's changed their lives. So thanks, guys. I'm excited to see the future for you and for your kids, and they're lucky to have you as parents. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.